Hey folks, Phil from the future here. Two things. Number one, this deck is a great budget option. It cost me 32 ticks to borrow everything for this deck, and I only own the Leyline of the Voids. And number two, the recommended round for this video is easily round 5. Check it out if you're on a limited time budget. Enjoy the show. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for a Pioneer video with a special guest. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. We'll take a look at them a little bit later on. And Jack D wanted to see some Pioneer spirits in action. So I brought in the Spirit Squad. Dre, do you want to kind of introduce yourself here for my audience who probably doesn't know you?
All right, well, what's good, everybody, over in the ThrabenU audience? My name is Dre, aka SpiritSquadMTG, and I am here to talk about some mono blue spirits and play some gameplay with Phil.
All right, so Dre is who I think of when I think of like the spirits archetype, really across formats. And Dre, I know you recently won an RCQ with this deck. Tell me a little bit about spirits and why someone might want to be playing this deck in Pioneer.
For sure. So Spirits has a unique position in Pioneer where it gets to be a true tempo deck in a field where people are really trying to play rock, paper, scissors with aggro, combo, and control. So if people are playing things that go over the top of all the other decks like mono green, or are trying to play a more controlling mid-rangey thing like Rakdos, or the other aspect where you have the aggressive decks like red-green cars or mono-white aggro, you get to have a bit of a unique position within the metagame and can take full advantage of that against just about everything. The best part about Spirits is that there's not one build. You can play Mono Blue, Bant, or even Azorius, but Mono Blue currently is the best version for me.
And even within Mono Blue, there's quite a bit of variation. This is something that we were talking about before we actually went live and started recording. So this is the original list that Jack D sent me, and I don't know, but at a ballpark, this is probably 20 cards different from the list that we're actually playing today that you've been succeeding with.
It is very different. For example, like the list that you were sent has things with lifelink in the sideboard, like Aethersphere Harvester, a few fewer counter spells. For example, there's only one copy of Spell Pierce and no Lofty Denials in the main, but it's a little more aggressive with all 4 copies of Ascendant Spirit. So what I'm doing here is tuning the list to what I think the metagame currently looks like, where I want to be able to fight against things that are more spell-based. For example, Angel's dot deck is only trying to resolve copies of Righteous Valkyrie and Resplendent Angel against you, but can do so using Collected Company and Kayla's Reconstruction. We're trying to circumvent those things by playing additional copies of Spell Pierce and Lofty Denial in the main. Also, a lot of the creatures in the format are much bigger than yours, especially now that cards like Shieldred exists. So to help mitigate those disadvantages, we're going to be playing Nebelgast Herald instead of cards like Brazen Borrower, which can sometimes let your opponents take advantage of enters a battlefield effects.
Yeah, and the fact that so many of these spirits have flash or can gain flash really puts you into this neat position where you get to pass the turn with your counterspells available, and if you don't need to use them, then you can continue to put pressure on the board. And like that really helps out with this tempo aspect. Like you can protect what's on board with your counterspell, and if you don't have to do that, you kind of grow the threats, and you even have some very nice endgame mana sinks as well.
Oh, for sure. Like you have a lot of things to be able to do with your mana. Even though we're only playing 2 of them, Ascendant Spirit is still a really nice card to draw on like turn 6 or 7 where you just have a bunch of mana and nothing else to do with it. Spectral Sailor, dumping 4 mana into that thing to draw a card, that is not embarrassing, especially if you draw it on turn 7 or 8 against a deck like, say, Azorius Control, where tapping 4 mana and drawing a card 3 different times will probably seal you the game because you're drawing more cards than your control opponent is. And even in the sideboard, we've opted into some additional mana sinks like Reckoner Bankbuster, which we have here as a 2 of. This will help A, just do something with your mana against decks that are trying to go late game, but also keep up on cards against a deck like Rakdos that's actively trying to play a 0 resource game.
All right, final question here before we go into the rounds directly. What are you hoping to play against, and what are you hoping to dodge?
So the decks that we want to play against, first and foremost, is Mono Green Devotion. That deck is Very, very good in the format against almost everything except spirits. They only have Cavalier of Thorns to be able to really do anything about our flyers in game one, and as long as that card is handled or overwhelmed, we generally don't have to care about the entire rest of their deck, even when they have 20 plus mana. The second most common type of deck that we want to play are going to be the various control archetypes that exist in the format. So if we face something like Azorius Control, Karuga Fires, or just Yorion Pile of something, those are all favorable matchups because they're generally trying to resolve 4 and 5 mana spells, but they have to do so through our 1 and 2 mana counterspells. And the decks that we don't really want to play against, especially when we're on the draw, are going to be the hyper aggressive decks like red green cat cars, like mono white aggro, or mono red burn. All of those are absolute nightmares when we lose the die roll.
All right. Well, folks, let's go ahead and hop into the matches here. If you're new here and you like what you see today, please consider subscribing to support my content. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It's the easiest way to support my content for free. As a special little treat today, Jack D did write up some notes about Pioneer Spirits and sideboarding. I'll go ahead and throw those in the video description. So if you end up wanting to try out this deck, feel free to check that out. All right, let's battle. All right, round one opening hand looks pretty good to me. This one's a keep, right?
Oh god, yes. We are on the play. We have Ascendant Spirit and Spell Pierce with Lofty and Rattle Chains. So on our turn two, we will have basically a million options as to what to do with our mana. I love this hand.
And I just assume 100% of the time we're just playing out Ascendant Spirit on turn one, right? No need to hold up Spell Pierce on turn one in this format.
Yeah, no. Like sometimes your opponent will come at you with like a Rakdos' Thought Seize on turn one, but even then, because our hand is so good, we, for the most part, welcome the 2 life loss. Let him do it.
All right, Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Does that mean we're going to be playing against a Rakdos deck?
This does look like we're playing against Rakdos, and yeah, here we're fairly comfortable with them taking the 2 damage. They might take Lofty so that they can resolve a thing like Graveyard Trespasser, but even still, we Supreme Phantom. Yeah, that's allowed. Oh, love to see it. Love to see it.
I assume we're playing that and holding up Spell Pierce, right?
Oh God, yes.
All right, so for those of you who haven't done this wonderful thing before, Curious Obsession gives you a +1/+1, and whenever it deals combat damage to player, you get to draw a card. Now, if you didn't attack with a creature, not this creature, a creature, you do have to sacrifice it at end step, but if we're not attacking, something has gone wrong. All right.
Oh man, that was lovely. So here, what we really want to see is that they try to Bone Crusher Giant stomp onto our. Oh no,
Ooh.
what's this? Gifted Aetherborn.
Yeah,
Boo
sure.
hiss. Unfortunate.
All right.
So we can't do anything about that. So it looks like we're no longer playing against Rakdos. What we might be playing against now is going to be there's a oh, what am I thinking? It's a devotion deck that plays cards like this, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, stuff like that. Of course, there's Shieldred in here somewhere too.
All right.
So
So
here, okay, so here we can just choose to like play and pump if we want to trade with the Gifted Aetherborn. But if I'm being completely honest, I'm fine with just sacrificing the Curious Obsession here.
all right. So is our what is our plan for this turn cycle? Like, are we going to be flashing in a rattle chains on our opponent turn? Are we going to just try to lofty denial something?
So this is where we're going to actually have a bunch of options. So my guess is that they're going to untap and probably try to resolve something with multiple devotion pips like a Liliana of the Veil. But here we'll have the option of having Lofty Denial or Rattle Chains up. So I think we simply don't need to make the choice yet.
All
If
right.
they don't do anything at all, we can just put mana into the Ascendant Spirit. And if they decide to use a removal spell in response to that, like a Murderous Rider, then it kind of is what it is. But a Gifted Aetherborn with Ascendant Spirit is one of the things that we just don't really want to be seeing because it's kind of hard to get over that card with an Ascendant Spirit.
Yeah, like we can eventually power through.
Graveyard Trespasser, that counts as something that gets a Lofty.
Yeah, I played with this card in Cube the other day. It slaps. It's so much better than it looks.
It, yes. So at its peak on Magic Online, I think Graveyard Trespasser was like 56 ticks or something insane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like this card is absurdly good, and I'm sure it's a lot lower than that now, but that is a pretty sweet peak.
Ooh, our opponent is thinking about the attack. I'm good with that.
Okay, 18 all. Another rattle chains. Not exactly what we wanted to see here. We would rather have seen a land so that we can have like threat plus spell pierce.
All right. So given that we
Hmm.
didn't, are we just holding up rattle chains and spell pierce in this turn cycle?
I think I actually kind of want to develop like a Shacklegeist here. And since we're not really doing too much productive without a land here, we can at least tap down to Gifted Aetherborn. And
Ooh, okay.
because
Yeah.
like if we attack for 2, then they just attack for 2 and they go back to up to 18 with us being at 16. So like really, why do we bother? But at least this way, if they play something like Rankle, Master of Pranks, then we can tap that down and not have life be too miserable. Oh, wow, that's pretty good. Oh, you know what that means? If they're playing cards like Sign in Blood, they might have that. Um,
Oh
what is the
shit.
new version of Cabal Coffers called? Oh, whoops, we
Yep.
didn't tap it. All right, well, that happens.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Is Sholdred a thing that could be in here as well?
Shouldred has multiple black pips. That could definitely be a thing in here. And Infernal Grasp. Okay, unfortunate. They lose 2 more life. And hey, we drew the land that we needed. Okay, so that's actually a start to being productive. I like that. That helps to count so that we can use Spell Pierce to counter and invoke Despair, while also being able to be a little bit more productive with our mana.
All right, are we crashing in for 1 here?
Yeah, I don't see the need to pump or anything because we may need to use the Rattle Chains as well.
We've got a few too many copies of rattle chains here.
Yeah, and just like the fact that this is mono black with Gifted Aetherborn and not Rakdos is a bit oh, there's Shieldred.
Yep. All right.
Gross. Uh, not sure this one's going off to a great start. I feel like this is gonna get way more life gain than we have the ability to fight with. So here, what I think I want to do is put Rattle Chains in play so that we can establish a flying threat, and then really just kind of like cross our fingers from here because like Shieldred is going to be very good at outpacing us.
Yeah, this trigger is gonna bleed us real quick. All right, is
Yeah, like
Ottawara a land here?
it is because we may need to double Rattle Chains or use Ascendant Spirit's ability plus Rattle Chains. So realistically, I don't know that this is going to be a game that we're winning now that our Shackgeist is dead, but I think that's going to be our best route to fight back.
All right, so I'm just passing the turn here.
No, I think we attack with just Rattle Chains. Like we're not going to be doing any kind of like really profitable blocking, so I don't even know that we really should pretend to block with Rattle Chains as a 2-1 against a 2-3 and a 4-5.
Understood. Yeah. Shouldered is such a big life swing. Like it's 8 points of life, like 4 combat damage, 2 life loss, 2 life gain each turn cycle, and that's a lot.
That is a lot. So okay, so they go ahead and crash in for. Oh, not what?
All
I'm
right,
wondering why Shielder
fantastic.
didn't attack there. So that is good for us because it buys us a whole nother turn. I don't know if we'll be able to use it super productively, but it does at least buy us the turn. So here, I think we just take the 2, go to 10, and then try to pump Ascendant Spirit at end of turn, depending on what they do.
All right, sounds good. They also may just kind of feel safe.
I mean, they are.
Yeah, they most certainly are. So this is gonna drain us for another 1, and coupled with the Shouldered, that's rough.
It is
Are we
rough. Like
playing out one of these rattle chains just to increase our board presence?
they have 2 cards. I would actually say no, because really our only way to get back into this is to have like an Ascendant Spirit that can just like help try to win combat. But now that we have a land, I don't even know that it's not okay to just like pack it up and move to the next game here. Like they probably don't get much information out of the 2 Rattle Chains and Spell Pierce, but they haven't seen Spell Pierce. They probably have Invoke Despair in their deck, and I don't. No, the Spell Pierce was in our opener. Never mind. I was gonna say, and I don't know whether they saw it with the 1 Thoughtseize, but yes, they did.
All right. So what's our plan here? What do we need from the sideboard?
So here, what I would want is things to keep up with cards like the Shieldreds and all of the life linking that they have going on. So what I want to do here is put in the Slip out the back and the 2 Nebelgast Heralds. And what I want to take out is going to be the 2 copies of Ascendant Spirit and I want to take out one copy of Shacklegeist. So Shacklegeist being a pretty terrible blocker on its own is not exactly the best game plan against something like, say, the Gifted Aetherborns, or really anything that this deck could play other than Rankle Master of Pranks. And Ascendant Spirit, as we saw, even on the play, can just get gummed up on the ground, especially if they're playing something like Merit.
All right, so we have a good turn 1 play, but our turn 2 is lacking. We don't have any counterspells. We don't have a source of card advantage. Is this one a mulligan?
I'm mulliganing this, even knowing that they could Thoughtseize us. And that is actually quite a bit better.
All right,
So
what's going back here? Are we just sending back the most expensive spell here, or...
I'm actually putting back the Supreme Phantom. So knowing that we have Geistlight Snare, Lofty, Rattle Chains, that means that we have 3 pieces of instant speed interaction, and that means that I probably don't want to be walking us into a sorcery speed turn when we really just don't need to for at least the next few turns.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. All right, so we have an onboard spirit that sometimes will get a little bit bigger in combat.
Fatal Push, okay, sucks but happens, you got it. And here, that's actually not that bad, provided we can draw a land to do something with it. So here, if they do play a threat like, say, a Gifted Aetherborn, I don't know that I hate using Lofted Denial. It's just like a Force Spike, a Thoughtseize. I'm actually gonna, yes.
Yeah,
So
we...
if they have another Fatal Push, so be it. If they don't, then we welcome the 2 life loss.
Yeah, we really just want a creature in play because it will help if we draw a Curious Obsession effect so that we can, like, get the ball rolling. Like, we're good as long as we're ahead on tempo, but once our opponent starts slamming their powerful 3 and 4 drops and we're not answering those, we're in trouble if we're not beating down relatively hard in the air.
For sure. And haha, Thoughtseize bug confirmed. Let's
All
go.
right.
All right, so here we would love another land soon so that we can develop our Nebelgast Herald. But honestly, so far so good. So if they jam like land, yeah, I was gonna say if they jam like land into whatever the 3-drop is, Graveyard Trespasser, then pretty content to do with that.
All right, that's not quite what we're looking for.
Yeah. So it's all right though. As long as they're not doing anything, we're content to let them just kind of have that rock. What's happening here?
Swift
Swift
End.
End.
Which one of these am
Um,
I firing off here?
the Geistlight Snare. So Lofty Denial will always cost 2, but Geistlight Snare, if they do manage to get rid of your thing, will cost 3. And until we see either another blue source or, well, preferably another blue source, we're not necessarily guaranteed to be able to cast the Geistlight Snare.
Oh
Gross.
no.
They did have Liliana in their drag. Okay, that's pretty gross.
Yep. So this probably puts us in a really awkward scenario where we have to play
No.
this out, right?
Yeah, so we don't have to play it now, but that is definitely going to end up being a thing. And now our point about Geistlight Snare being uncastable in the future is unfortunately come true as well. So let's go ahead and pass here. On the tick up, I'm probably cool to just discard the Geistlight Snare, and then if Lofted Denial can be a Force Spike, then that's okay-ish. Not great. Well, we will happily Force Spike that.
Ooh, buddy.
Yeah. Still not the land drops we need, but we're trying.
Gaslight Snare goes away.
Yeah, it's one that's most uncastable, and if we have another land coming up, we would rather appreciate the threat that's Nebelgast Herald.
Okay, and we
All
do.
right.
Both these have flash, so we can go ahead and pass our turn here. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to kill the Liliana with a single attack.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's quite a bit rough here. Dang. I was gonna say I almost want them to Field of Ruin our yeah, Spectral Sailor. So Spectral Sailor is better in a low resource game, but against a deck that
Oh
potentially
no.
has gross. Um, at least we can tap this and then try to draw a land for Faceless Haven. That is a play that we have access to. So if that lets us clear the Liliana, we can at least try that.
Oh, it is the
Right.
land.
And it does happen at least. This is still ugly, but we at least are able to participate as much as we're able to, given that we got stuck on those 2 lands earlier.
And our opponent doesn't have that many cards. Now, the Shouldered is still going to do serious work, and the Field of Ruin is going to prevent Faceless Haven from... Oh, no.
Oh, come on.
So this thing
Ev
basically poops Vampire Nighthawks.
Unless they decide to
Oh,
draw a card.
that's
Huh.
a decision.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that either, but at least now we can
Like,
clear the
now their
Sorin and
Sorin
we have
just
a
dies?
second. Yeah, like we have a second creature land. They don't have a life linker. I can't condone that decision, opponent.
This is one of those times where we take those.
Yeah, for sure. Like we currently need all the help we can get against the Shieldred. Like she's gonna take us all the way down to 6 effectively when our next turn comes around, and that's a 2-turn clock being Shieldred. So we'll take all the help we can get currently.
Is this just... Oh, no.
Oh, a
There's more
trespasser. Okay.
gas over there. And this is also a little bit of life gain, which doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. And the part about Graveyard Trespasser that's most frustrating, and usually why I'm so happy to use my Force Spikes as a Force Spike against those things, is that with Nebelgast Herald, never mind. I was gonna say with Nebelgast Herald, we could tap down Graveyard Trespasser, but it makes us discard for doing so, and the Nebelgast Herald isn't optional. So this one, unfortunately, I think we can just pack it up and keep it going.
I agree. GG's, this felt like a very tough matchup. We did the best we could. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is more than just the deck building website that they advertise to be. It's a place where you can go to find articles and more than just deck lists. So for example, if you want to find out the people who are like brewing or a lot of the brewers with the most followers, that's something that's just readily accessible on this website. So consider checking them out. All right, we're here for round 2. I like what I'm seeing here. This looks like a keep to me.
Oh, yes, we are on the play. This hand's pretty great. And here, instead of jamming Descendant Spirit, I actually want to hold up Spectral Sailor. Oh my god, our opponent's mulliganing all the way down to 5, too.
That's
So,
pretty rare in this format, right?
yeah, like a lot of the decks just don't generally have to mulligan too much. So either our opponent's really unlucky, or they're playing a deck like Lotus Field combo where they're just trying for something extra specific. But while we're waiting on them to take their turn here, the reason we don't want to play Ascendant Spirit, we actually just saw in last round. The ground can get gummed up by a deck like Mono White, and here we know that we have Spectral Sailor plus Curious Obsession. So why would we play Ascendant Spirit, which can get very easily blocked, when we can just play a Spectral Sailor and guarantee do the thing?
And this is an example of like knowing what your deck is supposed to do, and like this is one of those little edges where like I, who is not familiar with this deck in this format, might have led on this creature instead, and it would have been incredibly punishing for me to do so.
Yeah, but here we're going to get to draw a card. Another island isn't that bad. And here we can develop Descendant Spirit as like a blocker if they want to attack with Kythian, but they got a lot of work to do right now. And we get to untap with Rattle Chains in hand, which is probably the best thing against any of their available turn 3 plays. So these people do play things like Brutal Cathar in their deck, and we just don't really need to deal with that. If they attack, yeah, I actually love blocking here because we probably plan on using Rattle Chains or drawing into a counterspell anyway. And Kythian versus them sacrificing Dauntless Bodyguard, who cares which 2/1 it is?
Yeah. If we trade 1 for 1 any number of times because we have Curious Obsession, we are going to end up ahead. The other thing here is like our tempo spells are going to be very good if my opponent is actually missing land drops, which it's at least somewhat likely to happen.
Yeah, like if they were not missing a land drop, then they definitely played a land pre-combat here. Um, yeah, just to at least lie to us and tell us that they have a card like Brave the Elements. And since they didn't do that pre-combat, yeah, I also felt it was a pretty safe assumption to say they did not have a land.
All right, we'll pick up that card. There's a counterspell. I assume we play Faceless Haven this turn.
Yes, sir.
All right, this is good stuff. So we have extra flash creatures available, and we also have Lofty Denial available.
Yeah, this is
Yep.
perfect. Perfect. All
Yep.
right, they're
Now,
off
this
it.
is one of those decks you said you didn't want to play against. We got really lucky. Our opponent mulliganed deep and didn't have a functional game 1. So what are we bringing in
Right.
here?
So here I want the other two Nebelgast Heralds and the Slip Out the Back. And cards that I don't really want against them are going to be the same Ascendant Spirits, and then I'm going to take out one of the Spell Pierces as well. I don't mind keeping in exactly one Spell Pierce because they do play things like Brave the Element and can side grade into Planeswalkers if they really want to, but I don't want more than one in the deck for any reason.
So while we have some time here, Ascendant Spirit is something that we've boarded out in both rounds. When is this card usually going out? Because like it seems like a kind of powerful card that can scale. Why are we boarding this out?
So Ascendant Spirit, when you are putting mana into it to pump it into things like a 2/3 and a 4/4 flyer, is really good. But that's only applicable against decks where you actually plan on having access to all that mana. So things that are trying to take you into the late game, like control decks and like Rakdos. But against decks that are trying to kind of compete with you on a ground pounding level, like mono white aggro or mono black that plays things like the Trespassers, the Gifted Aetherborns, all of those things, where a ground pounding 1/1 is basically never getting through. That's where it becomes subpar. But if we come up against like a blue white control later on, that's where Ascendant Spirit really shines. But that's also why I've taken it down to 2 instead of having the full 4.
Makes sense to me. All right, we don't have a turn 1 creature here. We have a couple of bodies we can throw in the way and a couple of counter spells. How is this hand? It feels medium to me.
Honestly, I'm actually going to use even stronger language than that. I think this hand is terrible. So like this hand is almost guaranteed. That's a lot better.
Okay. We don't have a starting creature for this immediately, but double Curious Obsession could get real big. Most
Sure.
expensive card going back?
Nope. I'm actually going to put back one of the two obsessions. So in the event that our opponent has things like a portable hole to get rid of our first creature, we're already not using the second obsession anyway because we don't have a creature. But if we get one and get to do our thing, we're already winning. And now we've gotten a second threat. So even in the event of like a portable hole, Skyclave Apparition, Brutal Cathar, we still have a backup threat so that we can do our Shacklegeist thing. And knowing that we only have one blue source in hand here, if we get to have Shacklegeist turn into a Curious Obsession type of turn, we'll be really glad for the second, for the 1 mana counterspell that is the Geistlight Snare later on.
All right. This is a pretty weak Thalia's Lieutenant. Like, this is not how you want to play out this card, at least in theory.
No, they
So,
would much rather have something like a Luminarch Aspirant on turn 2. Ooh,
all right. So I
that's
assume
nice.
we play our island here.
Oh, for sure.
And are we just gonna sorcery speed this, or are we holding up Lofty
Yeah,
Denial?
no, I'm gonna play the Shacklegeist here. So the worst thing that could happen is that they play like an Adeline Resplendent Cathar, I think is her name is. And that would kind of put us on a back foot because oh well, that's not happening with. Okay, so there's a Brutal Cathar, and that is annoying, but that is something that was kind of a known quantity. So we take the 2 here, and really we just kind of want to see like a slip out the back to prevent the same thing from happening again next turn. But without a slip out the back in hand, I think we're still pretty okay to at least develop our second Shacklegeist depending on what we draw and kind of go from there.
All right. Faceless Haven Shacklegeist passed.
Yep, I like that. So I would really love a 4th mana to be up now so that we can use one of our counter spells now instead of crossing our fingers and hoping until next turn. But given what our hands have contained here, oh, there's the aspirant.
All right.
I think we're just kind of stuck making do, if you will. But here, if we end up seeing a card like Nebelgast Herald come off the top, this is still a winnable game. Tough, but winnable.
I assume this counter, yeah, is going on the land. And
Yep, so
we've unfortunately just got to eat this damage.
yeah, so we're going to take this here. And we have an opponent who is not going to be fully versed on what our cards do. And we can see that through the fact that they did not attack with their Brutal Cathar because Shacklegeist cannot block non-flyers.
Ooh, that
So
is a good catch.
So that's how you know opponent might be a little inexperienced with the matchup here. So yeah, I'm just putting on the Curious Obsession onto the Shacklegeist and attacking. And really, we're just hoping to see like a Nebelgast Herald that is probably one of our best draws.
All right, deck. Let's do it. Nope.
Not quite. But we do have both Rattle Chains and Geistlight Snare up now, so we can still make 2 plays this turn. And if our opponent attacks and lets us block that Brutal Cathar with a Rattle Chains, we are 100% about that life. Oh, yeah, I would actually just, no, I'm gonna off do that, yeah. So that does take away our blocking line here, and they can attack us for a metric crap ton.
All right.
But Athali's Lieutenant would also have just killed us, so rock in a hard place.
Well, we got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, yeah. This.
Oh no! Yep, they did the Summoning Sickness one. Oh, I just talked about this the other day with somebody. So
Okay.
a thing that both online and arena do is they will give you little swirly animations on the lands that just came into play, or you can simply right click on either platform so that you know which one just came into play on that same turn. That's how you avoid making mistakes like that.
Yeah, so you can right click, or I'm always playing an island this turn, right?
Yeah.
So I can right click, and then the one that you just played will say newly controlled. All right, am I crashing in here, or am I
I think we
purely on
have
the
to
defensive?
because no, I don't think we can really even afford to be on the defensive because we can't block with Shacklegeist anyway.
That is how that
And
works.
our out here is really just like one of our 4 Nebelgast Herald, and unfortunately that did not show up. Poop.
Concede.
Um, I'm actually gonna say no, only because if our opponent does not put the counter on, oh right, never mind, it's a first strike. Yeah, we can concede.
All right.
I forgot about the day-night thing. What I was going to say is that if our opponent just crashed all, including the Brutal Cathar, and did not put a counter on it, that actually opens us up to being able to block the Brutal Cathar with Rattle Chains. And from there, we had potential, if rough, ability to draw a Nebelgast Herald +1 card from Shacklegeist drawing us a card. And if our turn happened to contain exactly Nebelgast Herald plus Spectral Sailor with the mana we had available, what we could have done is Nebelgast Herald, tap a friend, Spectral Sailor, tap a second friend, tap both with Shacklegeist's ability to tap a third friend, and we might actually have gotten out of combat like that.
All right. Are we changing anything now that we're on the play?
On the play, I'm going to take out the Spell Pierce for 1 Ascendant Spirit, but
Sounds
that's
good.
it.
Ah.
In, I actually don't think this hand is a trap. I actually kind of like this. So, remembering that they are trying to like Brutal Catharis and stuff like that, we are relatively content with being on the play and with this hand having near perfect control over how combat works, and that's how either of our decks wins the game. So if we are going to just like use Shacklegeist to kind of draw their attention, maybe Brutal Cathar comes in, tries to steal Shacklegeist, but by that time we'll have Slip Out the Back available, and at any point, if we draw a nice little supporting cast, that Nebelgast Herald is going to look amazing. So let's see if our opponent can also keep 7 cards.
They thought about it
Oh,
for quite some time.
yeah, and so this is going to be the first game out of our 3 here that we actually have 14 cards between our 2 starting hands.
All right, our opponent burned a little clock. They probably stepped away from their computer to do something. Oh, I don't actually know this one. Look at the
Probably.
top 4 cards of
Oh,
your
recruitment off.
library. Oh, neat.
Yeah, this card is super sick. Like a lot of people have been talking pretty highly about Recruitment Officer. Um, and you know what? Loft in Denial, when we have a Nebelgast and Herald in hand as well, that counts as a supporting cast. So
Yeah.
here we can just play the Shacklegeist and be pretty excited about the idea of being able to untap with Lofty Denial plus Slip Out the Back or Nebelgast Herald.
Okay, so there's another land drop. Okay.
Oh no, they did have the portable hole. Okay,
Hey, Livy.
basically.
Now we're only taking 2 here.
And no, this isn't really that bad at all.
That seems quite good.
Oh yeah, like Rattle Chains with Nebelgast Herald is a pretty dope little combination of cards.
Okay. Are we tapping anything down this turn?
No, not until the end of turn phase here. So we're gonna take this forward, go down to 14, and if they want to jam something else, then we can make a choice at that point. Sweet. Now we can just jam this Nebelgast Herald and know that we have untap ability to rattle chains plus lofty or even use slip out the back, this is where we kind of want to be with the Nebelgast Herald.
This only taps creatures, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my god, are you kidding me?
Look, I come from Legacy where
If this was
Schadenport is a thing you're allowed to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say if this card was actual opposition,
All
I
right.
don't even know what I would do.
Crash in for 2.
Oh yes. We are never blocking with Nebelgast Herald if we can help it.
Yeah, so just in case you didn't get a good read on this card earlier, this is when it or another spirit enters the battlefield. So, it's good.
Yeah, Nebelgast Herald is very good. And if you ever see 2 copies of Nebelgast Herald against one of these hyper attacking decks, then your day has just been made for the next forever. So here I think I let that resolve.
I thought so as well.
But I don't mind using Rattle Chains to tap down, yeah. And I specifically like tapping down the recruitment officers so that they could so that we can block the Dauntless Bodyguard and then kind of make them sweat about being able to protect a creature or not. And if they want to use a Brave Day Elements, we have a Lofty.
All right, so make the trade here.
I like making a trade.
Yeah, and we're hoping to trade 1 for 1 and then eventually go just bigger than what our opponent is doing by drawing a Curious Obsession. All right, that's not what we're looking for.
Well, we're hopefully done drawing islands, but at this point, if we do end up seeing the one Nebelgast Herald the Ascendant Spirit that we put back in, that'll be a scenario where we're pretty grateful for all these lands, or even a Spectral Sailor to draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, it is not going to take much to tip the scales in our favor.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty easy counterspell. I love getting rid of that.
Oop.
It's like, hello, don't mind if I don't.
We are a touch behind in terms of the life total race here.
Yeah, so drawing more threats rather than lands would be super lovely. That
I
counts.
mean, that's fine.
Yeah, that totally counts. And since we're relatively flooded too, yeah, definitely attacking. Since we're relatively flooded, the Faceless Haven having Vigilance might actually be a thing that comes up too, because if we have the ability at some point to put it up, attack, hold back, and then still have mana to block with it, our opponent's not going to have a very fun time of overcoming that. Oh, all right. Well, this is where our slip out the back is going to come in handy.
Declaration in Stone is a sweet card.
I agree. And I think folks don't really use it on tokens as much as they should. Because that's a thing that comes up between like old growth. Oh yeah.
So
Love
now we
it.
just get to like play this, crash in, and then kill Nebelgast Herald.
I love that. This is officially their problem. But this is also like see that situation that we were talking about where if we get Faceless Haven, we have the mana to activate it, attack with it, but we still have the mana to block with it. And yeah, like they're not going to have fun 2-for-1ing themselves trying to get rid of that. And we're certainly okay with that trade, but now we have a second Nebelgast Herald to tap down another friend too.
Yeah, this game swung so quickly in our favor. Now, admittedly, opponent still does have more cards than we do,
For sure.
but we are now the aggressor, and we're who?
Oh, nice. So Adeline is definitely one of the cards that I was scared of, but if they never get to attack, who cares?
Yeah, so we will just tap down both of our opponent's creatures here.
Yep. Huge fan of not letting them play Magic.
One there, one there. And now
So
every
now,
flash spirit we draw is just disgusting. Like, it's a time walk.
Spectral Sailor.
Speaking
Yeah,
of,
good enough. Good enough.
yeah, so this is 5 damage, followed by lethal with rattle chains.
And the best part about that too is they can't even Brutal Cathar their way out of it because we just drew a Rattle Chains. So here, instead of playing the Rattle Chains pre-combat to tap their 2 creatures down because they can never do 10 to us, what I want to do here is just chill. If they try to play a Brutal Cathar, we can protect our friends with Rattle Chains. We take what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage at most. Oh, they're just gonna do it pre-combat anyway. Never mind. We don't even
So
have to care.
we let them target, and then Rattle Chain's the one they target.
Easy peasy, beautiful.
All right, so they obviously go for the thicker one. All right, so let's Rattle Chains, give that protection, and there we go. Whew,
And yeah,
GG's.
difficult match overcame. GG's.
All right, round 3, we're really good at rolling dice, so we're on the play again. Is this one a keep with 2 evasive bodies and a handful of lands and 1 counterspell?
I am actually gonna go with no on this one. They play a Gigantha, which means they're almost definitely one of like the more mid-rangey removal piles, in which we might have to like read a card, and they're probably playing some just infinite amounts of removal. We can't keep this.
All right, this is a 1-lander that probably just dies to itself, right?
Yeah, no thank you to this hand either. That's actually a lot better.
Okay, all right, this is salvageable. So we have to throw back 2 of these.
Yeah, so here I'm gonna throw back the Faceless Haven and the Slip Out the Back. Yeah. So this way we can just jam the Ascendant Spirit, and this will give us a gauge of what they're playing. Next turn, if they play something like, say, a Triumph, for example, and we draw a Curious Obsession, we can play the Mausoleum Wanderer to protect the Ascendant Spirit, or we can use the Geistlight Snare and try to just like protect our things. Oh, it's heroic. Okay.
All right, it's been a hot minute since I have seen this deck in action.
Same here. Um, this is going to be tough. Like, being on 5 cards here is already fairly difficult, and we put back a hand that contained Nebelgast Herald, which we wanted. So I think we chill here with the intent to Geistlight Snare and Illuminator Virtuoso.
Okay.
Or the 1/3 that is not playable in your format, Dreadhorde Arcanist.
Ah, yes. A lot of those unfair cards scale up so much as the power level of the format goes up.
Yeah. Here, Dreadhorde Arcanist is going to counter our, copy cards like Ancestral Anger, not quite Ponders and Brainstorms.
All right, so are we just letting this damage through?
Yeah. There's no way we can tangle in combat with a favorite hoplite.
I
So
didn't
the
think
part of
so.
like never mind it just being a 1/2 anyway. The worst part about that card for us in combat is if you target it with literally anything. Ugh, I actually think we do counter this.
Yeah, this is maybe not our ideal target, but
Yeah, if
we're
we get
not.
super far behind them, it's not going to go well.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. Like, we're already way behind in terms of card count.
And they had the Reckless Rage too.
Ooh.
Yikes.
Yeah, so just in case you're not immediately seeing how this works, this deals 2 damage to target creature you control, but that's actually an upside here because of these heroic triggers. So that goes up to 3 toughness, so it doesn't die to their own card. And that just makes this an incredibly efficient removal spell.
Yeah. And the best part about specifically favorite hoplite with cards like that too is that it's got the heroic text, of course, is +1/+1 when you target it, but also ignores damage for the rest of the turn. Um, and that really just messes up combat too. And that includes combat damage and the damage from its own reckless rage. Like it kind of auto combos itself with anything else in the deck.
Yeah, that is hot.
Yeah, so this is gonna be one of those matchups where we're probably going to lose the game one, and that happens fairly. Oh, and there's the virtuoso that we talked about earlier. Boo.
This is sweet.
That card is sweet. A little bit less sweet since we happen to be on the other side of it.
And I really wanted to draw a Curious Obsession right there.
Oh, that'd have been nice, yeah.
That was too much to ask for, apparently.
Right.
All right, we are very likely to take a beating in this turn cycle.
Oh yeah, like if they just come at us with basically Defiant Strike plus no, I was gonna say Defiant Strike plus pretty much anything, then it's gonna get gross very quickly.
All right,
I think we let the Connive resolve and then Spell Pierce.
sounds good.
But admittedly, this is gonna get really ugly really fast. Luckily, we do have things like Nebelgast Herald and Shacklegeist that can draw us out of messed up scenarios like this, but game one, it's going to be a little bit difficult.
Oh man, +4/+0 and trample. Ugh.
Yeah,
Ugh.
or each get +2/+0, which
Sometimes worse
sometimes you,
considering
yeah,
multiple
I was gonna
heroic triggers.
exactly. And
So
there's the
that's a
Ancestral Anger.
hopper stable.
I believe that, but what deck does it go in? Like just red white Squadron Hawk deck?
The hot dogs deck that's playing like Kiln Fiends and stuff.
Oh, there's another Killing Fiend deck? Okay.
Yeah,
Because like
are
the
we?
last time I played Pauper, it was just like, yeah, I unfortunately I think we kind of have to. Like they have 2 cards in hand, and they're gonna get to go ahead and connive and things down. But realistically, if we let them have a million cards, then we're just losing even harder.
Oh no.
Okay, well, you know, sometimes it is what it is. Yeah, I don't mind conceding this one.
Yeah, that's fine. There's our mulligan to 5 did not treat us kindly here.
No, no. So here we want slip out the backs. We want definitely the Nebelgas Heralds. Um, and let's see what we want to take out to see if we want the Aether Gusts as well. Um, we don't want Ascendant Spirit in this matchup either. Lofted Denial's pretty terrible, unfortunately.
So that's at least
And
one
it's
Aether
59,
Gust to
so...
fill.
And I actually don't think we want the other 2 Aether Gusts because I don't see anything that I'd rather take out more than having those.
All right. Let's hope to open on a stronger hand.
Oh, for sure, yeah, like, not mulling to 5 would be super lovely, and,
A little
you feel like
awkward.
gambling?
It's a little awkward. So like we can
This
play a
is
reasonable body and go for Curious Obsession and the snare, but not exactly fast.
no, I'm gonna say to ship this one, even though it is very tempting. Like, you caught me on a different day, I probably gamble. This is actually kind of a lot better. So here I'm actually just putting back the Supreme Phantom and trying to use Shacklegeist plus Rattle Chains to protect it and Spell Pierce to protect it to at least help try to control combat until we can see more land drops and then eventually develop more cards, hopefully, than they can attack with.
It seems somewhat likely that that our opponent is going to go under us, though.
It is. So this may end up being a hand in which we just kind of get got. Yeah, I'm developing a Shacklegeist.
Yeah, I mean we'll try our darndest, but
Right,
I
like
think
we're
we're
trying to hold down
fighting
the fort,
an
really.
uphill battle from the start here.
Oh, we certainly are. Like this is exactly the kind of hyper aggressive decks that we just like don't really want to see. And lucky for us, within the general context of the format, Heroic is not a deck that sees a lot of play, but it is very scary for us when it does. Playing a deck like this, Portable Hole, okay. Playing a deck like this does mean that our opponent has a really bad Rakdos matchup, which is why you don't see most of these. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's great for us.
So, do you feel like Spirits is a deck that is better in like say a winner's metagame in like a premier event than it is against the randomness of leagues?
Oh, definitely. Which is actually why you almost yes, I like Shacklegeist here. Which is actually why I don't typically play many leagues with it, because that's when people are just doing the random stuff and playing with cards that they own slash like and just want to jam, rather than playing in a very, I guess, controlled metagame, which is where you want to be playing blue cards when you know the threats that you're actively aiming to try to beat.
Yeah, for the legacy regulars out there, this is very much a deck like Death and Taxes in a couple of different ways. One that like your play skill vastly will increase your win percent over time, and two, you're building this deck to beat specific things. So when you don't play against the specific things you're trying to beat, you're a little bit worse off.
Oh, for sure. So that's gonna be a little bit unfortunate here, and 10th District Legionnaire is probably their best threat in this deck.
That's awkward. That's not really worth a spell
That is
pierce, right?
awkward. Unfortunately, I think I actually have to say wrong, only because with 3 mana on their table, we're not guaranteed to get another use of the Spell Pierce. But if we end up seeing another 2-drop on our next turn, we'll be happy that we at least gave ourselves the ability to use all of our mana. But Homestead Courage is certainly like nowhere near an actually acceptable spell pierce target, just one that I think we almost have to do. And the decent part about countering that is that we're going to be going to 10 here, which, 11. Oh, duh, because we countered it. I'm like, why are we at 11? Because we countered a +1. And that effectively takes, assuming no other effects resolve, a whole nother turn off of their attacking clock.
All right, I assume we're just passing the turn here and using the tap ability.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and develop rattle chains now, actually, rather than next turn. Reason for that is because our protection spell here is slip out the back and not like an actual counter spell. So if we flash in rattle chains on their turn, they could be holding up like a Rending Valley or a Reckless Rage. And if they do that in response to us casting rattle chains, we'll never get to use Shacklegeist. Here, we're at least guaranteed to use Shacklegeist.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I was thinking about that myself. All right. I
So
assume
yeah,
we
we're
tap
gonna.
down the Legionnaire.
Yep. And then if we take one or more, then so be it. And if our best case scenario here is that their hand sucks and they just use the turn to like buy Gigantha from the companion zone. There's the Reckless Rage. Okay, so at least crisis averted, and they're still gonna have their friend
Oh,
tapped.
I guess I let them scry first.
Mm. And I do actively love that. Like, let them make all their decisions without having perfect knowledge.
Yep, the little things matter a lot.
Oh, for sure. Like, if they, for example, assume the Reckless Rage is resolving, then maybe they had another Reckless Rage on top and just put it on the bottom. But now that their creature, our creature isn't dead, maybe that messes up their nefarious plan.
Ugh, that's
Oh,
well, that's very good, actually.
that is very good. So here I think we can attack for 3 with Shacklegeist, and then next turn we can Nebelgast Herald, tap down 10th District Legionnaire, and then use Rattle Chains plus Nebelgast Herald to tap down the Virtuoso as well, leaving them only able to attack with the Soulscar Mage. Granted, we are still behind, but Nebelgast Herald is one of the cards that can help improve. What are we doing? Ancestral Anger targeting Illuminator Virtuoso, okay?
All right. Oof.
Another
Nice
Homestead
value.
Courage? Yikes. Yeah. That's gonna feel pretty good for them.
So I guess we're looking to draw another Nebelgast Herald. Like, I guess that's kind of the dream. Or
That would
maybe
be
a
super nice.
card draw effect into that would be even better. Ugh. We're going to take a surprising amount of damage from the Soul Scour Mage here.
Yeah, it's a 3/4. And
Yep.
with us being at 9, that's definitely gonna add up. But at least this is gonna let us fight back quite a bit. So cards we don't really want to see here.
Oh no, I think they have another
Um,
Reckless Rage.
they do
Oh,
disgusting.
I think that means we're dead this turn.
Um, mm, we
Yeah.
can very technically tap the Virtuoso and block the 10th District Legionnaire, but realistically, we don't really have an out. So this is the point where I don't mind packing it up and just moving to get round 3.
All right. GG's. All right, round 4. We're on the draw. We have a 1-drop and triple Curious Obsession, but only 1 blue land.
Oh, I am so greedy. Yeah, I'm pressing the button and I acknowledge what I'm getting myself into, but I'm pressing the button.
Yeah, so
Oh.
if our first creature dies, we do have. All right, it's your matchup.
Ooh. Please be devotion and not cars. So yeah, we're gonna play the flyer, and if they're playing red green with Stormseeker and Obliterating Bolt, then so be it. But if this is an old growth troll, these Curious Obsessions are gonna look real nice.
Seems like this is
Oh
mono green devotion.
man.
Right, there's a Karn.
And an Elvish Mystic, okay. Oh,
Oh,
all of the Elvish Mystics. Every single Elvish Mystic ever. These are the most... Oh, perfect.
all right, so we are always doing one of those. Are we doing the
Yeah.
second?
I think I am going to say to hold off on the second one because we could draw Geistlight Snare for either Karn or Cavalier. Um, And those are both going to be eventual problem cards. So at least let's try to draw the counterspell for them first.
Yeah, that's one of those judgment call decisions where I needed your advice as someone who had played the matchup countless times.
Right. And then here, I think I'm going to say to hold up the Spectral Sailor. Because what happens here is if our opponent does in fact play Cavalier, then we'll be pretty happy for the line of Flash and Spectral Sailor untap Shacklegeist. Is it just a Storm the Festival?
Oh, they're out there. They're unsure.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't. Okay, opponent wants to play Karn. So we can't do much about Karn. Assuming Karn grabs the Sky Sovereign, that'll be a situation where we are probably gonna have to go a little ham on a second obsession and then just try to like absolutely counter the mess out of a Sky Sovereign, or even like a Rattle Chains or Slip Out the Back to get rid of its initial triggered effect.
Art
What did
of
they get?
Kieran.
Oh, Heart of Kirin. Okay. That's actually not the worst for us. So, Heart of Kirin specifically. Wait, are they not casting it?
Oh, wow. I think we're pretty happy with that. I guess they could crew
I
it immediately, but like
no, they can,
slipping
they
it.
can.
Oh, right,
Because you can take a
loyalty.
loyalty counter
Yeah.
off of Karn.
All right. We're not blocking these, right?
I'm actually thinking about that because I'm kind of tempted to, because if they block and I'm sorry, if we block and we get rid of Karn, then they don't currently have 3 power to crew the Heart of Kirin otherwise, which makes it a potentially useless draw. Um, we
Yeah,
might
that's
actually.
interesting.
So that's kind of what I'm currently thinking about is like, is that, you know what? Let's try that line.
All right. Ambush Viper is a go. And there's no no
And
no difference between these in terms of
no,
anything that's in
no,
the deck.
no, we're not playing Declaration in Stone or anything that cares about similar name titles. Okay, so now I think what I want to do here is no, actually not that. We can develop Shacklegeist plus Ascendant Spirit and simply forego the Curious Obsession draw and instead use Mausoleum Wanderer to clear out Karn. And then in their upkeep, we can use the Shacklegeist and Ascendant Spirit to tap down one of their mana elves and see if that cuts them off of mana for a better play this next turn.
All right, sounds good. So we can Faceless Haven then
Yeah,
as our land drop this turn.
for sure.
All right, Shacklegeist, get big. Ascendant Spirit, get bigger.
And then the best part about this line too, do we have an upkeep stop? Yes, we
Yeah.
do. Okay. Is that since we have 2 more Curious Obsessions in hand, we can also use Mausoleum Wanderer to counter a copy of Storm the Festival without feeling bad about sacking our Curious Obsession because we just have 2 more that we can immediately put on Shacklegeist.
Yeah, I thought things were looking real bad, but it's actually pretty reasonable right now.
Yeah, life isn't okay, so they do have another Karn. It is what it
Yep.
is. So if they get Sky Sovereign here, um the most hilarious slash greedy play possible, but I also think is the correct one. Oh, they're just gonna Pithing Needle our Faceless Haven, whatever, we don't care about that. Is that we can actually put both Curious Obsessions now onto the Mausoleum Wanderer and then attack Karn with the 2 remaining creatures. What that does for us is it plays around the option of them Sky Sovereign targeting Mausoleum Wanderer since it'll be a 4/4.
Okay.
And then we still have a blue source to draw a potential counterspell. Yeah. This is a wise man once said, this is the good shit.
Yeah. This. Oh yeah. Okay. So it does feel like our opponent punted that one though. Like they tried
Yeah,
to force 2 points of damage instead of defensively playing Heart of Kieran.
I don't think that was a good line from them at all.
All right. So what do we have for this matchup? I assume the
Yeah,
Aether Gusts are coming in.
Aether Gusts are great, and the other 2 Nebelgast Heralds are pretty good too. Cards that we don't really want here are going to be the 2 Slip Out the Backs in the main. And then there's 2 copies of Ascendant Spirit, which has a hard time getting through all of those Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystics. And then I'm also going to take out exactly 1 Shacklegeist.
All right, sounds good. I really like these Nebelgast Heralds. Like I love
Oh,
that degree of interaction.
they felt so good. And yeah, this hand's not bad at all.
Yeah, we don't have some bonus card draw or anything yet, but like we have a reasonable flyer to start things off, and then multiple interaction spells after that.
Ooh. Yeah,
Don't mind that.
for what it is, this makes me pretty happy. Are you a Kiora? Are you a troll? You are a Kiora. Okay,
Sure.
that's fine. Oh, another elf. Okay.
Oh, it's an Oath of Nissa. Sure.
Oh, both of them Nissa. Not even an elf. Okay. They
Found
found
Nykthos.
Nykthos.
Okay, so is this Kiora something that we attack and try to kill? Do we ignore that? What's kind of your heuristic here?
No shot. Kiora doesn't exist. So what I would like to do here is just play Mausoleum Wanderer, attack for 2, and then hold up our whole list of options for 2 mana interaction.
So this is our turn 2. So if we play Mausoleum Wanderer, we're not
Oh,
holding
wait.
up everything.
I'm sorry. I thought we were on turn 3. My bad. So no, we can just attack for 1, and we can still hold up the option of flashing in Rattle Chains or using Gust or Geistlight Snare. And we just honestly ignored the mess out of Kiora here. An option that we would have, too, I don't want to do this here, but we could Aether Gust the Elvish Mystic after their draw step to kind of try to ruin a turn from them casting Karn. But stuff like this happens. They could just play another Llanowar Elf and just not even make you worry about that. So
Yeah.
here, we're just not even going to worry about any of that. We're just going to let them have all of their mana, knowing that we're only trying to counter a key few spells.
Okay, they're gonna go big, but that's hopefully good for us. Like hopefully we take out the most critical card from their hand here.
Like that. So here, I like casting the Geistlight Snare because we're not necessarily guaranteed to be able to use a 2 mana thing productively. But also, they could just generate so much mana next turn that pay 3 is not relevant at all. So I like using those as soon as we're able to.
All right, there's
Uh,
another respectable counterspell.
Yeah. So we can play a Mausoleum Wanderer pre-combat, attack for 2, and then still have a bunch of options available. And I'm still not really a fan of attacking into Kiora, so we're just like not gonna do that.
Yeah, it feels like we might have enough gas to get to 20, but probably not enough gas to get to 26.
Exactly.
All right, down to 17. All right, so the Nykthos shenanigans are going to start.
This is another one. It is
It is
another one.
another one.
Well, we'll be pretty glad for that, Lofty. Oh yeah, for sure. And this is surprisingly nice for us because now this is a turn where we can attack the Kiora because we can just put in Spectral Sailor, pump both Wanderers, get that attack in without really sacrificing equity. And then the following turn, we can Curious Obsession. I like that for us.
All right. Yeah, big.
So at least now, like, the worst of it for the most part has been pretty well held off. So as long as we can start making use of our 2 mana plays from here, including the Aether Gust, I'm pretty happy about the idea of the next few turns going well.
Yeah, like there's some endgame inevitability here, but we're hoping to like go really hard down the tempo rabbit hole. Well, that
Okay,
one
so we
doesn't
can't
get
do much.
Aether Gusted.
It does not get Aether Gusted.
All right, so this can potentially get the Heart of Kieran.
Yeah, let's see if that's what's going to happen here. They do get the Heart of Kieran this time. Okay.
All right. So is this end of turn Rattle
Oh,
Chains to develop?
I do like that, yes. So here, they've got a few options as well. Like, let's see what we draw before making any real decisions, of course. But the Curious Obsession actually provides a whole nother line of attack where they might have to choose between protecting their life total versus protecting the Karn. So one thing that we could do is Curious Obsession onto the Spectral Sailor, and then direct Spectral Sailor to their face and the other 3 attacks at Karn. so that they have to kind of choose between keeping it alive and letting us not draw a card. We could play patiently and then try to draw something else, like say a excuse me, like a Nabelgast Herald or a Shacklegeist or something to combat the Heart of Kirin. But doing this gives us the option to kind of strand them.
All right, so I think I like that. So this on Sailor, right?
Yeah. And I like specifically Spectral Sailor because it doesn't get pumped by other spirits, and Spectral Sailor provides the least value on its own, being unable to counter the late game Storm to Festivals.
All right, Sailor at face, everything else at Karn, correct?
Yep, so this way, if they remove a loyalty counter from Karn to crew the Heart of Kirin and block the Rattle Chains, Karn still takes 2 and dies.
All right, which way are they playing it?
The Spectral Sailor, okay.
Yep,
So, good
that's
night,
fine.
sweet. Yep, so good night, Karn. And now they don't have a third piece of power or toughness in play to block with the Heart of Kirin. And if they want to come at us with something like a Cavalier of Thorns, we can Geistlight Snare / Aether Gust. And okay.
That just resolves, right? Well,
Yeah.
it does give
No, I'm
the
still gonna. Yeah.
okay.
So that does give them the third power toughness. But even that, honestly, I think is still fine. Like we can EOT Aether Gust one of the elves if we really want to, if they do nothing else.
All right, so do we want to do that? It's worth 4 damage.
I think so, because if we draw another Curious Obsession or any tapper, I think that's where we can start trying to, run away with the game. Just make their play as completely invalid as possible. And if they put it on the bottom and then draw Forest, great. Life is perfect.
Yeah, they
And they
did put
did
it
put it
on
on the
bottom.
bottom. That's not bad.
All right, I mean, we crash in and we've got a counterspell up afterwards.
Yeah.
We do have a little bit of a narrow window before things start getting bad because of the Storm the Festivals that are in the graveyard.
Yeah, for sure. Like they're currently chilling at what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana out of the 10 necessary. But oh no, that sucks. They have
So,
exactly the 3 mana to be able to pay it.
womp womp.
Yep.
All right,
Sad times. It is what it is.
yeah, and that gets devotion towards these other things and
Yeah,
crew Heart of Kirin.
yeah, it's pretty close. Ooh, that's not what we wanted.
So,
We did draw the other snow-covered island, so we could go ahead and activate Faceless Haven, attack, and then make them block with either Heart of Kirin or Old Growth Troll. And I actually don't hate either of those blocks for us. So we can just like crash in with just Faceless Haven. So if Old Growth Troll is the blocker and it decides to go ahead and attach itself to a forest, that's actually -1 for devotion purposes. Because the forest will tap for additional, but they won't have 3 pips to go off of. And if they block with Heart of Kirin, that just frees up our other attackers. Okay?
all right.
So certainly not pretty, but it still is an option we have access to.
Yeah, but now we don't have access to
Yeah,
our snare in this turn cycle, which is rough.
it can be, yeah.
All right, is it? It is. Oh my gosh, it's a third Storm the Festival.
Maybe they whiffed. All right. Can't do much about that. I mean,
That's pretty
that's
acceptable.
that's close to a whiff. So now let's draw a Shacklegeist. Oh,
That's
not yet.
not
At
quite
least,
it.
yeah. So okay. So unfortunately, I think we're just kind of stuck hanging out for a turn. Um, a tapper would be so good right now, though.
Feels like we're gonna get buried by these 3 now.
It feels like you're right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
just resolving.
Yeah, we can't do anything about that.
And this is
Um, I think this is the part where we just move to game 3 because like now they can start casting multiple Storm to Festivals a turn, and this is going to get very ugly very quickly.
all right. Any changes? Play draw.
Nope, just resubmit. The plan is good, but the plan does have a fail rate sometimes. It is what it is.
Speaking
Ugh.
of auto mulligan.
Yep. Okay, much better.
All right. So
All
what
right.
is going back here?
The Spectral Sailor. So here, yeah, we've got the Wanderer, turn 2 Supreme Phantom for just like maximum aggressiveness, and they're just gonna have like a relatively hard time getting out from under this unless they're playing something super dedicated in their sideboard, like a Skylasher that we haven't seen yet.
Oh my gosh, it's a mana dork. Surprised Pikachu face.
Right?
Alright, this is one of the first games where we've actually played out a Supreme Phantom. A lot of times we've been opting to keep the more interactive cards in our mulligan decisions over it, but here we are definitely looking to race.
Oh yeah, like this is kind of where we want to be in this racing scenario here. And Oath of Nissa as well. Okay, let's see what they find. They
Another
find another Land of
elf.
Werewolves to cast. Got it. Good stuff from the opponent. And what do we draw?
That's
Oh,
what we
nice.
want.
Yes, put it on the Supreme Phantom because we might want to use Mausoleum Wanderer to counter a copy of Storm the Festival.
All right, makes sense to me. We don't need to play this island pre-combat for any reason.
No.
Although we're probably playing it. We could draw a Faceless Haven. All right, opponent's at 13. Hey, it's Faceless Haven.
Hey. Yeah. Yep. So we're just gonna play that and then hold up Rattle Chains because they do sometimes play Voracious Hydra out of the sideboard.
Okay.
So we'll obviously see whether that is what they're doing in a second here. But if it is, we'll be pretty glad that we kept the Rattle Chains because it'll stop them from being able to fight our creature. So they're currently working with 6 mana, assuming a land drop, and that is Storm the Festival territory. So if that's what happens, we'll be pretty glad to Mausoleum Wanderer counter that, Rattle Chains at end of turn, untap, and then try to get to work on killing them with the Faceless Haven too.
Yeah, like we have a 2-turn clock on our end. In most cases.
Yeah. So hopefully this is going to be one of those scenarios where they don't just like Karn plus Heart of Kirin, but even if they do, we still have a Shacklegeist to at least help mitigate that as well. So there's currently plenty of options that we have available. We just need to like not get overwhelmed in the next turn or two by something super drastic. Okay.
All right.
So
Cool.
they don't even find a land? Nice.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Yeah, for sure. So here we're pretty happy to just put Rattle Chains in end of turn and then knowing that we can use Shacklegeist next turn to tap down the Cavalier and get back to work. Another
Hey.
Supreme Party?
I
Nice.
I assume we're just playing both of those out pre-combat.
Oh yeah, this is their problem.
Yeah, and this is good because this now doesn't cost us an attacker.
Right.
So we tap
Perfect.
both our creatures that can't attack. And that is Mausoleum Wanderer hitting in for 5, by the way. This puts our opponent to 1.
Nice reach creature go.
All right. I think this is the GG moment. Like, this mono green deck can do explosive
outside
things.
of a completely ridiculous Nykthos turn. Okay,
Yeah, and they just made their land drops, so.
Yeah, we just counter that and then don't even let them play.
Oh,
magic.
shit.
Okay.
Ah!
That's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you just press the button anyway. It's okay. Almost no 2 cards can dig them out of this anyway.
Yep, that doesn't do it.
And that's not it.
All right, cool. So tiny misclick at the end was supposed to sacrifice this, but we got there, and we're now at 2-2. All right, we're here for the final round. We're 2-2, so this is to see whether or not we get our money back and a little extra. This opening hand is a little medium looking to me. What do you think?
I think I agree. This hand is technically functional, but by the very barest of definitions. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when we've already mulliganed, I think having these 3 cards is probably automatically a keepable hand.
Yeah, we're gonna put back one of the 2 Nebelgast Heralds. And if this Ascendant Spirit gets to untap, we're gonna feel real good about it.
Now, in the worlds where this trio doesn't pop off, we are in trouble.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for a lot of trouble, but I think this is gonna be one of those hands that at least can dig us out of it.
Yeah, sometimes
Ideally,
you have to high roll.
Yeah, for sure. Like, hopefully they just play like a Triome or something. Just let us know that everything we're. Oh, Jesus, no. That's
So, this is
please, please, please be on Rakdos and have no removal.
we have to go for it, right?
Yeah, like I don't think we're playing Magic if we don't. And if this is okay,
Oh shit, it seems like we're good. Alright.
okay,
Now, if beggars can
draw
be
land.
choosers, hit the land drop. Hit this land drop. Shoot.
Aw,
It's okay. Like, we have a thing started. Okay, we are playing
okay.
against Rakdos. But a lot of their removal spells are online at 2 mana. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Alright.
All right, to be expected. If we drew a land, we probably win just based on the interaction. We didn't. It sucks. It is what it is.
Oof.
Oh, that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, not yet.
You want to wait till 2 mana?
No, I just want to wait until they tap out for this Bone Crusher Giant.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. Flash is good.
So yeah, if they tap out for like a Bone Crusher Giant or a Graveyard Trespasser, then we're just gonna put in a Spectral Sailor. But we clearly really need to draw the land. But if we do, we're still like not just in the worst scenario. It's bad, but it's not just the worst. In a Fable. All right, we don't have a spell pierce, so not much to be done about that.
Yeah, this card is maybe not all over Legacy, but it's pretty common. It is so much value.
Oh yeah, like I'm sure I don't have to tell your viewers anything about how good Fable is. I'm sure it's in like almost every iteration of Mono. Where were you a few turns ago? Every iteration of Mono Red Stompy that's existed ever.
All right. So is the plan just do a poke and hold up some counter spells?
I think we hold up counter spells for like one turn and try to give ourselves a land drop. So on the following turn, assuming here they're going to make some big play like the Bone Crusher Giant, a Shieldred, or something similarly disgusting. And then we'd be pretty happy to counter that with the Geistlight Snare. On the following turn, if we get to draw a land, we can do something like Supreme Phantom and hold up Slip out the back because they're probably going to be holding up Fatal Push on like a turn after that. So I think that's going to be what gives us our best chance to play Magic. They have Reckoner Bankbuster in the main. Okay. So that means that our opponent's also most likely trying to test for a hardcore level tournament because like you don't play Reckoner Bankbuster in the main unless you plan on seeing a lot of Rakdos mirrors.
So I'm a bit of a pioneer outsider here. Like
Hmm.
where does Rakdos stand? Like top 3-ish decks?
No, it's top one.
Oh, just the best.
Yeah, it is the best deck, and I currently think it's by a mile. So if we were to put things into like, I don't know, like a Street Fighter tier list, no, we just let this resolve.
Okay.
Then it would be Rakdos and Mono Green Devotion are the S tier. And then I would put things like Blue White Control is probably an A level deck. Mono White Aggro is an A level deck. Is it Phoenix is an A level deck. And then you would go from like, let's not be cute and say there's A minuses or anything. B would be like Spirits, Lotus Field combo, and then like there's the Karuga Fires of Invention deck. Have you seen that yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So that deck's pretty sweet, but I think that lives in like the B tier. And then just about everything else where you would typically have to read cards would go into C or below.
Our opponent is maybe not having some trouble, but really given a deep think to this thought seize here. They're probably trying to figure out like how their next few turns lines up against these counter spells.
Right, right. And I think, yeah, a lot of it is deciding whether they want to take out the Nebelgast Herald that's actively good against most of their attackers, or, yeah, I was gonna say, or if they're just gonna try to like exhaust us of counter spells, and it looks like they've chosen to exhaust us of counter spells. And a Bank Buster. A second
Yeah,
Bank
in
Buster in the main.
multiples.
Um, Disgusting, but I actually do think we have to do that.
Yep.
So not only do we not really want them to just be up this far on cards when they're already up on cards, but also like what are we doing with this turn otherwise?
Yeah, this is 3 mana, and if we don't use our mana when we're this far behind, we're probably in trouble. I mean, we're already in trouble. Like, let's
Right.
let's be
I mean,
real here.
Yeah, like call a spade a spade. It is what it is. Actually, I think I like that draw because now we can Spectral Sailor and hold up Slip out the back, so that if our opponent tries to get cute with another removal spell, we at least have a lot of play this next turn. Granted, it's still not the level of play that we want, but it is still not nothing. Like they get to flip their Kiki Jiki into play here. We're still getting attacked. They're making tokens. They can resolve this Bone Crusher Giant for just a giant attacker. Pun intended. But at least we can go into Spectral Sailor, dodge a removal spell, untap, maybe draw a land, and then start participating really heavily from there.
Yeah, like our opponent has dealt a little bit of damage to themselves, so like the aggro dream is not necessarily dead.
No, like if we can keep both of our Spectral Sailors alive and put Supreme Phantom in play with another land drop to hold up Slip out the back, this is a game that can be won. We would be stealing the crap out of it, but it is a game that can be won.
I think if Reflection of Kiki Jiki gets to copy something that's a removal spell, or like maybe gets to copy Bone Crusher Giant, things get pretty
Oh,
tough.
well, yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
rough. Although that's still not as bad as like a Blood Tithe Harvester. I think Blood Tithe Harvester with Reflection is just easily the worst case scenario for us. But barring that, we might still find a way out of it. We're kind of reaching, but it's technically possible, so there's no reason to not play for it.
All right, and I think we're dead if we don't draw a land here, though.
I think you're right,
Okay.
but we do. Okay,
This
so
is
yeah,
Phantom this turn, right?
yeah, we got to try. Come on, deck, you can do it.
Can we mathematically do it? Oh no, they've
Um,
got
thanks
something
to the
here.
Nebelgast Herald, the answer. Okay, I was gonna say thanks to the Nebelgast Herald, the answer is technically yes, but it is really ugly.
All right, so there's our effective counterspell, but it means we're only doing 2 damage this turn.
Yeah, like
I think we're dead to
it's
most things.
honestly, yeah, we just are. Like getting stuck on that second land really messed us up, and having that Ascendant Spirit in play now would have been really nice because we might not have needed to counter, for example, the Reckoner Bankbuster. We could have let them waste turns trying to draw cards while we were busy killing them with that Ascendant Spirit. And unfortunately, that option does not exist because we didn't draw the land. But, sometimes you mulligan, gamble, lose.
That said, I do absolutely think the 6-card hand was a keep. Like, it was a risky keep,
Oh, yeah.
but like we did successfully draw a card off of it.
Yeah. Like, given the scenario in the hand, if we saw it again, I would totally keep it again. And once again, acknowledge that, hey, it's rough, but it's possible, and I'm just going to have to gamble sometimes. They have another stomp.
I
Okay,
I think this
now
is
I
the
think we're
end, right?
just
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So let's see if we can bring this back in the next game here.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got the slip out the back that looks really good, and the two Reckoner Bank Busters that are nice. And here I'm actually, I know, first time all league, but I'm actually going to say to take out the Nebelgast Heralds and one of those Ascendant Spirits.
Yeah, it feels tough to want to funnel this much mana into a card against the giant pile of removal that is our opponent's deck.
For sure. And then Nebelgast Herald specifically is good against a lot of their threats, especially the Blood Tithe Harvester. But a big thing about Nebelgast Herald is that its ability is not a May ability. And it will come up sometimes that the only creature on their table is a Graveyard Trespasser, which means that anytime you try to play a spirit, you're stuck targeting that thing, and you'll have to discard a card to the ward if you actually want to use that effect. It's just not great.
Oh, that is
Some
that is some heads up matchup knowledge right there.
Yeah, like you can of course just choose to ignore the ward, but then you're playing a 3 mana spirit to effectively do nothing. So I like the option of just playing the Reckoner Bank Busters and drawing more cards and really just trying to outmuscle them on that front as much as you're able to.
All right. Here we go. We have 2
Okay.
lands. We've got a counter spell.
Yeah, I'm in
Let's
for this.
Yeah, I guess We don't really want to fish for the curiosity in this matchup, I suppose.
No shot. So since they're super likely to thought seize us, I'm actually going to say to hold up the Spectral Sailor. And that does a couple of things for us. First, if they thought seize us and we flash in Spectral Sailor, we don't necessarily mind the 2 life loss. Second, if we put into Spectral Sailor, draw an island, and play Mausoleum Wanderer, we can then, we can then use the Mausoleum Wanderer to protect the Spectral Sailor. But here they probably just take Rattle Chains.
All right, and your gut was correct.
Yeah, it makes sense. They are okay. So here, their best turn 2 play is likely just a copy of Bonecrusher Giant Stomp. So what I want to do here is actually just play the Mausoleum Wanderer to protect against exactly that, knowing that the Lofty Denial is going to be a little more valuable against their turn 3 plays.
Okay, so is this an okay time to play the Faceless Haven? Or do I
Um,
need to represent the blue mana?
just thinking about possible draws. I'm actually going to say to play the blue mana, just because next turn, if we draw, like, for example, a Curious Obsession and then somehow see another card where we actively want all of the blue, it's close to impossible in this specific scenario that'll end up mattering. But we also want our opponent making their next couple of plays, if possible, without knowing about the Faceless Haven, as long as we can. Okay.
Yep, seems good. And for those of you who haven't played against this card before, it's pretty respectable.
Yes. Yeah, this card does not suck. Okay. So here I think is where we can play the Faceless Haven, and I think we're going to um I think we're just gonna go ahead and hold up the counterspell this turn. So next turn we can Shacklegeist plus hold up Lofty Denial, and this turn we can still hold up Lofty Denial against something like a Graveyard Trespasser, which we certainly don't want resolving. And if they use the Blood Tithe Harvester as a removal spell, cool.
Well, I imagine
Counter
in most cases we probably trade Lofty Denial for a 3 mana card, right?
yeah. Like Bone Crusher Giant specifically, we don't really care. But like a Kiki Jiki or a Graveyard Trespasser, I'm super in for countering those. Are we attacking? Are we using you? What are we doing?
All right. I don't mind taking a little bit of damage here.
No, 17's pretty acceptable. And yeah, don't really want to face that down.
Especially as removal light as we are. We we don't really want something that can both scale up and do some incidental draining to be on the board.
No, that card is very, very good at being able to potentially race us. So yeah, what I want to do here is actually play the Shacklegeist and then not attack with Spectral Sailor, only Mausoleum Wanderer. Reason for that is that Blood Tithe Harvester ability is sorcery speed. So if we tap the Blood Tithe Harvester in its upkeep, it's not going to be able to attack or kill anything.
All right. That sounds great. And we have mana sinks available now, both in the Spectral Sailor activated ability and our Faceless Haven.
Yeah, that's going to feel pretty good. What's not going to feel good here is if they do get to resolve a Shieldred. If that happens, then yeah, we just are stuck crying about it. So I'd like to see us dodge that, which also means with 5 cards in their hand, not sure of what we actually would like them to see currently, but that's not on the list.
Well, at least they're in thinking mode. So they maybe don't have their best possible lines, or maybe they're constrained on mana.
That's possible. So Rakdos does have a lot of 3 drops in their deck. And it very well could be the case that they're deciding between casting, like, say, a Kiki Jiki versus another Trespasser, or making a land drop and then making a play of, I don't know, like Chandra or Shieldred or something. So they could have a lot of decision trees and not enough mana to do all of the things.
All right, so we're up to 4 mana. We are in shouldered range. Ugh, and it's happening.
And there she is. Okay. Unfortunate.
Yeah, that makes this mana sink a lot less attractive.
For sure.
Okay.
So, oh, okay. That helps.
Yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah, yep, I'm in for doing that. And what we can do here is attack for 6 with the Mausoleum Wanderer and the Shacklegeist.
then
And
tap down
the Blood Tithe
gold
Harvester
or the
again.
harvester. Sure.
Yeah.
Do we play our land drop?
No, because if we can get them to Thoughtseize, then we will welcome the 2 life loss. And this could also tempt them into playing something like, for example, a like go blank with their turn in an attempt to get rid of what's in our hand.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be cool.
All right.
Yeah, so I
All right,
like
this
just
one.
tapping that down so that they can't make use of it. And luckily this turn, their ability to attack with Shieldred, since they're only going up to 9, actually doesn't really matter that much. I mean, it does, because they can get rid of one or more of our creatures and then just kind of get to do their thing, especially if they get rid of Shacklegeist here. But make that 11.
Yeah, blood token shouldered synergies. That maybe keeps them alive for another turn.
It has the potential to, for sure. So what we actively want to have happen here is that they attack with Shieldred, take us down to 11, and then play a card like Graveyard Trespasser, hoping that they're safe, because then we actually can kill them with a combination of Faceless Haven and Shacklegeist. So I'm really hoping that they just tap out to play a creature, maybe a Kiki Jiki.
Oh,
That
so that's
counts.
exactly what you were talking about.
So they will drain, go to 12, and we really want them to attack. All right. Shieldred, I believe in you. You can attack.
Nice.
Oh my god, you're actually going to. Sick. So you do have a stop in your declare attack step. Okay.
All right. So we animate Faceless
we'll
Haven.
Well. And so now we attack with everybody but the Supreme Phantom. And then after we declare attacks, but before moving to blockers, what we can do is tap down the Graveyard Trespasser, discarding the Lofty Denial, tapping the Supreme Phantom, and the Faceless Haven that's already been declared as an attacker.
This is the tech. All right. Tap you. 1, 2. Discard our draw for turn. This is exact lethal.
Woo!
Yeah, so that was on board, but it's a pretty intricate line that's very easy to miss if you are not familiar with either playing this deck or playing against this deck.
Oh, for sure. Like, it just comes up where, I mean, look at this. Like, they resolved a turn 2 threat that can kill our creatures. They resolved a draining gain creature that's bigger than our board. And they resolved, realistically, the best card in the entire format. Sometimes you can just kill them out of nowhere anyway if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, very, very well navigated there.
Oh, for sure. So now let's try to run that back for game 3.
Any changes, or are we just good?
No, I think I'm just going to say to keep this exactly as it is. So sometimes on the play, I will put like an Ascended Spirit back in, but on the draw, honestly, no shot.
This feels pretty good to me.
This isn't bad. Like a decent 1-drop, some 2-drops that we actually want to see. Our opponent's mulliganing down to 6, and we have 2 protection spells between Rattle Chains and Slip Out the Back. Can't really get too much greedier than this, or than asking for this. Like a Curious Obsession would be nice, but I'd actually rather have a 3rd land than that.
Yeah, I very much like conceptually having 3 lands with this deck, because the ability to play 2-drop while holding up 1-drop protection is so nice in terms of your curve.
Oh, for sure. It's really good. And then that's actually one of the things that I've been kind of talking, hey, there's our 3rd land. Going on about with people too, because a lot of the lists that are common with spirits are playing 21 lands. And as you see, we do want to have the sweet spot between 3 and 5 mana fairly often. And cutting lands out of the deck just doesn't really make that too much of a feasible plan.
Oh, did our opponent keep a 1-lander?
Oh, yo, man. Okay, we're gonna play a Supreme Phantom then. So specifically Supreme Phantom for us, it plays around them having Bonecrusher Giant Stomp. A Fatal Push is still gonna get us, and if they're playing like Rending Valley or Cut Down, those will still get us. But we can evade as much removal as possible. And if we get to untap with the Supreme Phantom holding up Rattle Chains and Slip Out the Back, it's gonna look really nice for just us.
Okay, there is the next land drop.
Okay. And they did have the Fatal Push. Okay, it is what it is.
That's still okay for us though. Like we are ahead on land drops. Are we playing out Supreme Phantom here?
Actually, no. This time I'm gonna say to play out Shacklegeist, now that we have a 3rd land, because I want to tempt them into trying the Bonecrusher Giant Stomp.
Oh, that's sneaky, and I love it. Okay. Our
Okay.
opponent has ripped 2 lands
Hey,
off the top.
all right. Not even mad at it.
Yep,
It is
that's
what it
happening.
is.
Alright, goodbye, Phantom.
So, but even this isn't even that bad for us, right? Because we're going to be casting the Supreme Phantom during our turn here. Is that still true? No, that is still true.
Yeah, just cast this and hold up, slip out the back.
Yeah. And then this way, if they have exactly land Shieldred, then you know what, opponent? You deserve it. But doing it like this, especially now that we're going to be, I guess, attacking first, this gives us the highest chance of just being able to flat out race this thing. And casting a spell during our turn stops it from flipping over.
Yeah, we really don't want this thing to deal 4 to 6 damage a turn. 3 to 4 damage is a much more raceable range.
For sure.
Yeah, this is the
Like,
cost of playing a lot of non-basics, by the way. That is no
yeah,
swamps for Castle Lockdwayne.
no, and that's always been one of my favorite parts of playing this mono blue deck is that your mana is so incredibly simple. Like, a large point of contention among people playing the deck is whether to play an Otawara, and that land is almost as free as an inclusion gets, but the mana in this deck is so simple that even that's a whole discussion point. You don't really have mess like turn 4 tap lands. Just, no fuss, no muss, just play all of the solid cards.
All right. We'll take a small ouchie.
Down to 15. And here. Oh, they're just
Oh,
going to play another one. Okay.
okay.
That's almost worst case. But even still, they're not removing any creatures because there's no more creatures in the yard. And depending on what we draw for our next turn here, we actually might get away with. Oh, that's cool. A line of like rattle chains to block one of these. We can also just play Reckoner Bankbuster in our turn to play around them being able to flip their cards because we just don't want that to happen. Actually, I think I like that.
So Bankbuster attack, or are we going to be more defensive?
Let's think about that. So we actually have a few options. We can Rattle Chains now, ignoring its ability to fade combat to make sure that their trespassers don't flip. Attack with the Shacklegeist and the Supreme Phantom, and then hold back Rattle Chains as a blocker, knowing that we have Slip Out the Back and Geistlight Snare as well. We can Bank Buster and then hold up Rattle Chains. Actually, no, I think that's a little worse given the context of our hand. We have other things to do with our mana. I actually think I do like Rattle Chains now, prevent the flip attack. And this way, if the Reckoner Bank Busters want to get to attack, then we actually have a pretty reasonable blocker.
All right, and crash in with both, right?
Yes, yeah, there's no reason to hold back the Phantom. We're not doing anything else with it.
All right, this is going to be a little bit scary in terms of racing, because, like, this is definitely a thing that could get involved too a little bit later on.
It could. Um, I guess the cool part about that is that we also do have a Faceless Haven of our own. Croxa, whatever, we can just discard the Bank Buster, I think. I think our other cards currently have a little more equity. So Bankbuster is one of the cards that we sideboarded in an attempt to basically play a long game with them, but I think the way our hand looks currently, we're I won't go so far as to say perfectly set up against what they're doing, but I think we're doing okay currently. Yeah, I don't mind snaring that. So now if they want to attack with both, they can do that, walk into Rattle Chains as a blocker, and then we have Slip Out the Back and Faceless Haven to be more aggressive than they can get. And that is the last card in their hand, so we don't actually have to play around anything next turn either.
All right, but that does mean this is live as an attacker.
It is. But so is our Faceless Haven.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
And thanks to the Supreme Phantom, our Faceless Haven is actually bigger. So if they want to attack into Rattle Chains, they can. If they want to not attack into Rattle Chains, that's actually better. Okay. So if they want to drain their own stuff, okay, I was gonna say if they want to drain their own stuff for the sake of being able to gain life, that takes away their ability to Croxa.
All right, and this is easy trade.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like we have this, yeah, we're the ones with the slip out the back. We're the ones who are gonna be attacking for a little bit more thanks to the Faceless Haven. Um, don't really want the
Ooh,
Geistlight Snare here. Yeah, I think we just rip the attack. Because right now, this is going to be a turn clock because we're attacking for a total of 9, with the Faceless Haven attacking for 5. So if they want to tangle with us like that, they've got a lot of work to do.
All right. It's a little scary here, but
It is. Like, honestly, I would much rather have drawn a land than that Geistlight Snare, but this is they got to get a little bit defensive if they want to really like get out from under this, and they only have one draw step to do it in. And
this
thanks to
does
our
flip
having,
this card, unfortunately.
if we draw a land, I don't even know that that's really unfortunate here. So if we draw a land, then we can actually do the same Shacklegeist trick as last game, where we can attack and then discard the Geistlight Snare to the ward ability on Graveyard Glutton, and then slip out the back the Hive of the Eye Tyrant if they try to use both creatures to block defensively. So that is definitely an option that's available. And the same applies to this Kiki-Jiki token. So if we draw a land, then we don't even need to draw. Wait, no, we still need to draw a land. Or oh no, I lied. We don't need to draw a land. Duh, they're just dead. So now all we have to do is simply not attack with Supreme Phantom. We can tap the Supreme Phantom and the Faceless Haven after the Faceless Haven is declared as an attacker, and we have just won the match.
Yeah, and no cards in hand, so nothing can go wrong here.
Sweet.
All right, yeah, so animate, attack with these two, tap. Yeah, checks out.
Heck yeah, let's do it.
All right, animated,
Yep,
8
just those
incoming
two.
damage, and Shacklegeist, tap down this token. And that is the same line that killed them the previous time.
Yes. Shacklegeist. So good. I love that magic card. Nice. Well,
uh,
glad they took it in good stride.
yeah, lost twice the same
Yep.
way.
Hey,
Yep. And we have
we
gotten
we
the GGs.
yeah. All right. Well, GG's to a friendly opponent and good stuff overall.
All right, Dre, that was good for a 3-2 finish here. I really liked the play of that last round in particular. What thoughts do you have after kind of playing this league together, be it things about the deck list or about kind of interactions we saw? What comes to mind for you?
So, as we saw, Mono Blue Spirits is super interactive, and it really does reward you for knowing what the format looks like. Sometimes when you're playing random leagues, of course, that can backfire because you'll play against stuff like Heroic that can just kind of mess you up if you're not necessarily prepared actively for that. But it's also customizable enough, even given that it's one color, to the point where you can adjust for whatever the metagame's doing. For example, if we did think that we were going to play against a lot of these red white heroic decks, we have access to cards like Bind the Monster, Witness Protection, things like that, to make their attackers a lot less relevant. Here, we're actually playing 3 Leyline of the Void in the board so that in case we play against Greasefang or Is It Phoenix, we're prepared for those matchups. And it also happens to play nicely with Geistlight Snare, which is just a nice little bonus. But as we saw, we got to play against some of the best decks in the entire format, and we came out on top over the things that we were trying to prepare for. So we played against Mono Green Devotion. When they got to do their thing and had a very early Cavalier of Thorns, we just didn't have to care about that, even though a 5/6 reach is bigger than the entire deck. We played against the best deck in the entire format, that being Rakdos midrange, and a lot of those in combat Shacklegeist tricks are something that you probably just won't be aware of unless you're super familiar with the deck and have a million reps with it. But we're rewarded by knowing your way around the matchups by just picking up a couple of relatively easy wins after, trading resources back and forth and just managing everything the best you can so that their combat tricks or blockers, whatever you want to call it, is irrelevant. And stuff like that's going to eventually just get to the point where the deck rewards you a lot more than you feel like punting for not playing against what the top of the format looks like. So overall, I think it's a solid W and a good day overall.
Yeah, all right. I have one final question for you here. So
Yeah.
we never boarded in Mystical Dispute. Where are we boarding this in, just for viewers who might end up picking up this deck?
Yeah. So Mystical Dispute, especially as a 4 of, is a card that we never got to board in today, as you said, but it's really good when you're playing a tournament where you're trying to aim for the top of the format. The top of the format, aside from the decks that we just mentioned, also has a ton of Is It Phoenix and Blue White Control. And if you take a look at the data positioned on MTG Goldfish, Mono Blue Spirits is also one of the top 10 decks in the format. So we just want to be really prepared for 3 out of the 10 decks in the format, which is where those 4 Mystical Disputes come in.
All right, sounds great. Dre, thank you for joining me. Feel free, tell people where they can find you if they want to follow you or your content, and feel free to plug anything that you're enjoying or you're excited about.
Fair enough. Thanks. Well, everybody, thanks for having me today. You can find me everywhere, including Twitter, YouTube, and even on Discord. Spirit Squad MTG is my username on both YouTube and Twitter.
All right, fantastic. Folks, I hope you enjoyed today. If you did, please click the like button. If you want to see more collab content like this in the future, please let me know. Or if you enjoy my regular content more, please let me know either way so I kind of have a good direction for how to take the channel. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day. See ya!